What's the actual measure of success for Andromeda? Well, probably releasing it is one of those, but we'll talk about a few more. And should Windows 10 actually just be called Windows? All that and more in this episode. Stay tuned. How important is it that Andromeda succeeds? All right, so this is a really good question, but before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Andromeda and its status. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned how we heard it has been delayed but not canceled, and more information has come out since then reaffirming this idea. I've said it in the past when I spoke to the Surface team about releasing devices when they do it, and the answer is they release stuff when it's ready. So although they do have windows and goals that they try to reach, they don't necessarily have to reach those goals and release a product early. They don't do that anymore. They learned a lot of lessons early on. So Andromeda being pushed to 2019 so they can build up some of the app ecosystem, possibly swap out the processor, and really make it a better device is probably a good thing. I think a lot of you will agree they have to get this right. And while a delay is never really wanted by the consumer, it's probably a good idea to make sure that the device is perfect. Now, having said that, what makes a device successful? That's going to be variable. So when they create this device, they obviously have goals in mind and expectations for sales. It's probably not going to be a million devices, which would be absurd, but it's probably in 100,000 range, or who knows exactly. I think of Surface Studio as an example for this. It's a super expensive PC. Don't forget the one you actually wanted was around $4,000. How many of those actually sold? And what were the expectations with that device? We still can't go and purchase one of those in, say, Target or Best Buy. So these sales numbers will actually vary. I don't think Andromeda is going to be a huge seller, but that's really not the point for success. Another measure is just going to be word of mouth and reviews. So if the device comes out in 2019 and all the reviews say really good things about it, even if it's too expensive as a negative, that's still a good thing to have versus this is a device that no one wants or doesn't perform well. But the real measure of success here is, do other companies make their own versions? We have heard that Dell was supposed to announce their own version of this at CES in 2019. Whether or not that happened or not remains to be seen, but that's really the goal of this project. It's not for Microsoft just to create a one-off device, but it's for their OEM partners to also follow suit and make a similar device category. So for instance, in 2019, we should see Dell, HP, and other companies jump on board. If you recall, it wasn't around until Surface Pro 3 that people started taking seriously this two-in-one form factor. Up till then, everybody kind of laughed it off and telling Microsoft to get out of that market and stop bothering this. Even the reviews for Surface Pro 3 were pretty good, but it wasn't like this is a bang-out device. So it did take a while for that to catch on, and that's really the goal here, to get to version 3 of any new device category. If they can do that, that's your measure of success. Should Windows 10 be renamed to Windows? So this is a really fun question. In fact, I think I answered it before. Ever since Windows 10 came out, people were saying, why not just call it Windows? After all, we're not really expecting a Windows 11 anytime soon, so why not? And it's a fun question because the answer seems obvious, that Windows is just a better branding name. The problem is it's too generic. So if you go to Google or Bing and you type in Windows and start following it up with other queries, well, you're going to start to get Windows. And so that's not exactly what they want. Windows 10 at least is a solid branding for them. So it makes a lot of sense to think of this as just Windows. It's going to be Windows 10 from now on, just for branding purposes, marketing, and all that. I know it makes sense the other way, but the world is kind of a weird place, so we'll just have to accept Windows 10. Do you ever think there'll be a 15-inch Surface laptop? All right, so Microsoft updated the Surface Book with Surface Book 2, and the big news around that, besides those awesome GPUs, was of course that there's a 15-inch version announced too. In fact, it's one of the most powerful Surface devices ever created, even more powerful than Surface Studio, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it was a really neat decision, I think. The 13.5-inch, I actually think is kind of a perfect one, but with that 15-inch design, they're able to put in a GTX 1060 and make it even more powerful. So the question is, should they follow that with Surface Laptop, and have we heard anything regarding that? We have heard that they are exploring looking at doing that. I don't know the status of that project right now though, but it would make sense that they're going to announce Surface Laptop. They would do the standard 13.5-inch and also a 15-inch model, which would allow them to do a little bit different things, perhaps put in a little bit better GPU in there, probably an MX 150 or something like that. No GTX 1060s, sorry folks, I don't think you can do that in that kind of thin chassis. Whether or not they actually do this, we'll have to wait and see. We're not expecting Surface Laptop to be refreshed this year, unfortunately. We'll have to probably wait until 2019. But this team often operates in secret, so who knows the actual status of it. We'll try to dig a little bit further though and keep you posted. Do you think 2 years between each Surface Book is too much? So this is a really good question regarding Surface Book 2 and update cycles. Now when I spoke to Panos Panay last year regarding Surface Pro, he told me they don't really like to do device refreshes unless it's significant, and that's why Surface Pro is completely redesigned. I think we can agree here that Surface Book 2 was a significant upgrade. On the other hand, something like Surface Laptop and Surface Pro, I wouldn't mind seeing them throw in 8th generation processors. Those really do offer quite a bit of an improvement, especially by going to quad core, which is really good for multi-core processing. As to whether or not 2 years is too much or too little, there are problems both ways. If you do it every year, if you wait 3 months into that cycle, people are going to start to ask, should I just wait for the next version? Is it going to be much better? And you get into this cat and mouse game that there's always something better coming along, and you know now that in 9 months something better is going to come out, so you might as well just wait for that, and you end up never buying anything. And that's kind of a problem. Also, if you just bought a laptop, say a MacBook Pro back in March, and this new one just came out, you may be a little upset and trying to return it. Personally speaking, I like to see every year and a half. I think that's kind of fair, but if you watched my last video, how they time these things with Intel's processor lineup and release cycles is very important. They also have to time this with Windows 10 releases, which are often tailored for a better Surface experience. So let's just say it's a complicated problem. All right, so that does it for this week's episode. Remember, if you have a question, use hashtag AskDanWindows on Twitter, or drop me an email at askdan@windowscentral.com. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.